Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard another Flaps and Slats video. Thanks for joining. This one is going to be a little bit different than usual. A little bit of a story time for you now. This is on a journey that I took pretty recently in early 2022, headed up to Maine from Newark for Mother's Day weekend. And I didn't realize this at the time, but this turned out to be way more eventful than I was hoping or expecting. I was supposed to take off on Wednesday evening after work. On Monday of the same week that I was supposed to depart from Newark on a direct flight up to Portland, Maine, on board United Airlines, I got a call from United Airlines saying that they'd overbooked my 7 p.m. flight and that they could reseat me on an earlier flight leaving Newark at 5 p.m. Of course, this meant that I would miss a little bit of work, but I wasn't that annoyed. I knew that actually I would get some nice daylight footage for the flight up to Portland, and they also offered me a $250 travel voucher and an upgraded seat. So, of course, I said yes. This was probably the wrong decision, as you're about to hear in a little bit. So, I get to the airport in plenty of time, paid about $100 for an Uber from where I live in Manhattan over to Newark International Airport. Get to Newark, get through security, no problem. Get to the gate, get on the airplane, we push back, normal as can be. We take off, fly up to Portland, shouldn't be more than a 40-45 minute flight at the most. As we're kind of getting ready to begin our descent, what feels like, we just keep circling and circling, and all I can see are clouds and clouds, and we just keep doing loops. And so I'm like, what's going on here? And so I knew, because I'd read an article, that Portland, Maine's airport is undergoing some construction this summer on their main runway, which effectively means that that runway is out of commission. So instead, they're using a slightly shorter runway that's not equipped with an ILS system, an instrument landing system. And so what an ILS is, an instrument landing system, is a system that allows an aircraft or guides an aircraft to a runway. So even in low or no visibility conditions, totally safe to land. Unfortunately, as I said, this secondary runway at Portland is not equipped with that instrumentation, so unable to land there without pretty good weather. And so what the pilots needed was that kind of 400-foot ceiling, I think, and 2 statute miles of visibility. We didn't have it. So we ended up pushing back from the gate, and I guess the pilots or the operations center thought that the weather was supposed to get better en route. Unfortunately, when we get up there, it doesn't get any better. And so we're circling over the airport. We are waiting for that weather to clear off, and it never does. So we end up diverting over to Albany, New York. I thought we could have gone to Bangor, to Boston, to Manchester, all places I've seen aircraft bound for Portland, Maine diverting to, but no, we went to Albany. I guess, according to the pilots, that was the only airport that they could weather. We fly over to Albany. We get to the gate. The flight attendant got on the intercom and said, hey, we're just going to grab some more fuel up quickly, and then go fly back to Portland. It looks like the weather is getting better there, and the cloud ceiling is lifting. We're going to get our 2 miles of visibility, and we're going to be all good to go to land there safely and legally. We get some fuel, wait about another hour and a half. Some people on the plane are super upset, understandably. A number of people walked off the aircraft and actually decided to go rent a car and drive to Portland, which meant that, given it was a 5 to 6 hour drive, they're probably going to get there at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I figured that I would rather not do that and would just cross my fingers, cross my toes, and hope that the plane was going to be able to make it back to Portland. After sitting there for a while longer without any communication from the flight deck, the pilot comes back on and says, hey, we're just getting some paperwork done. Unfortunately, we're going to have to fly back to Newark. The weather in Portland is not lifting, and Newark is the best spot to go. And so we end up flying back to Newark. People are super upset. The agent actually comes onto the aircraft at one point and says, don't panic. Please don't come up here. Don't get too upset. This is just for your safety. Please stay seated. We recommend that you stay on the plane. We're not able to retrieve any baggage from down below if you've checked a bag. So the aircraft flies back to Newark. We land uneventfully. I actually didn't capture footage from this. My phone had died and it was pretty dark out, so not really worth seeing. But we get back to Newark and they decide they're going to leave all the bags on the aircraft and fly that aircraft up to Portland the next morning. Of course, we didn't have seats on that plane because the passengers for that scheduled 7:15 a.m. departure did. And so we had to go wait in line for the customer service desk. Our tickets were all on airport hold, so somebody actually at the airport had to action our tickets and change our itinerary however each individual passenger wanted, whether that was rebooking, canceling, and refunding, or whatever it might have been. And of course, because United blamed this on the weather, they didn't offer any accommodations or anything at the airport. And so some people just kind of camped there and got on standby for the morning flight and spent the night there. Other people went back to their apartments or got hotels in the nearby area and then tried their luck the next day. So going to pause my story here for a little bit and then jump back in after the takeoff, and then maybe here and there throughout the flight, or flights, I should say, and the footage. But sit back, relax, and enjoy the takeoff. So hope you enjoyed the takeoff footage there. There's going to be a lot more footage coming your way. We head up over New York City. You can see a little bit of Midtown, then up over Central Park. Get up to Maine, circle around, obviously, for a while, so lots of clouds, and then over to Albany, where we actually had a pretty sunset landing. I think my takeaway from all of this, obviously, besides not wanting to fly on United Airlines again, except for redeeming the voucher that they gave me, is that the airline industry really needs a lot of help. The passenger treatment is definitely disappointing, for lack of a better word. I think airlines like United, like American, that have kind of notoriously poor customer service really need to make that a priority again. When I got to Newark, obviously after now having spent 10 to 12 hours either ahead of the airport, being at the airport, or on the aircraft, the last thing I want to do is have to wait another 3 hours in line for customer service. And unfortunately, along with several hundred other people, not just aboard this flight, but aboard other flights that had also faced their own issues, not ideal. So I think United definitely needs some more customer service reps at Newark, but the problem extends well beyond the airport itself. This is something that I always find when something goes wrong with me and United Airlines is customer service is slow. They don't empathize very well with the customers, and it definitely seems like it takes a while, a lot of hard work, and a lot of patience to resolve things with United. So for that reason, I think hope not to see too many more videos on this channel from a United Airlines flight moving forward. I did get to meet some pretty cool travelers in line, waiting for that customer service desk to finally clear. So that was fun, but getting home at 3 a.m. after waiting several hours for my bag, and then spending another $100 to go home on Uber at that late hour of the night was no fun. But stay tuned. I'm going to upload the rest of this footage, I guess each individual takeoff and landing kind of video, to my channel. So if that's not already up by the time you're listening to this, then it'll be coming out really soon.
As a reminder, the seatbelt sign is on. Even when the seatbelt sign is off, please keep your seatbelt fastened while seated in case we have unexpected turbulence. Please also try to keep the aisle and galley areas clear. Please use the bathroom located in the cabin when possible. As a reminder, bags. As we speak. Unfortunately, the weather has gotten so bad there, just not thunderstorm, just the visibility is so low there that we can't legally get in at the moment. So we're going to hold and try to wait for that weather to pass out so we can then go in. Until then, we're just hanging out in this holding pattern. We appreciate your patience and sorry about the inconvenience.
So I just wanted to jump back in here for a quick second and clarify something. You've just heard in that last clip the pilot come on over the intercom and say that the weather has deteriorated in Portland to the point that we don't have our minimum visibility conditions met to execute our approach and land safely. He's suggesting, of course, that the weather got worse as we were taking, 40 minutes to fly up to Portland. However, I did my own fact checking. I went on to a few websites that I regularly use to check aviation forecasts and found that the weather report that was published just prior to us pushing back, 9 minutes prior to our pushback at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which of course is going to be 4 hours behind Zulu Greenwich Mean Time, said that we didn't have the proper weather conditions to land in Portland. That can only mean one thing. It can mean that United was banking on the fact that the weather would get better in Portland between us taking off from Newark and us actually getting up there to land. So if you ask me, this isn't really an act of God. This isn't a weather-related event. This is really an operational oversight from United Airlines. As more and more forecasts were published and updated every 40 minutes or whatever it was, I could tell that we actually hadn't had that 2-mile minimum condition met in some time prior to us pushing back. So I don't know where to place the blame here. Was it on the pilots? Was it on the ops center? I really don't know. All I do know is that, I, alongside 60 odd other passengers, sat on board that aircraft and went on a long sightseeing tour of the northeastern United States for about 12 hours that day. Of course, as an aviation lover, I loved it in some ways, but I also hated it. And I know that most of my passengers right there next to me probably hated it a lot more than I did.
letting up. It's just the visibility is too bad for us to land there. So we are making our way over to Albany. Once we land, we'll be able to get you accommodations and get you settled for what your travel plans will be there from next. I'm sorry about the inconvenience. The weather was supposed to be better than it was today. We appreciate your patience and thanks for your understanding.
And so, yep, you just heard it. There's the bad news that we're going to Albany to divert. Couldn't obviously land in Portland, so that was the next option. The pilot does promise that the airlines can do their best to get us accommodations. Obviously, the pilot's not very in tune with customer service. That's not their job. But just to emphasize this again, United didn't do anything for us besides make us wait in a 3-hour line to speak with their mostly grossly incompetent customer service folks at the Newark Airport.
at Albany, New York. Your local time is 7:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Please remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened. Once we arrive at the gate, the captain will turn off the seatbelt sign and will have further information and instructions on tonight's flight.
Tonight's flight. That'd be nice.
Inconvenience today, just the weather just wouldn't let up. Here we are in Albany, short of our gate Alpha 4, waiting for some rampers to come wave us in. Should just be another couple minutes. Once we connect to the gate, we'll have a customer representative come meet y'all, and they will have information on what to do next. We appreciate your patience. Sorry again for the inconvenience. We'll get you here, moving here shortly.
Gas, and then you're going to be heading out of here shortly, so we're going to have you remain on the plane, only because there's nothing open in this airport food-wise anyways. If you need to use the restroom, please use the bathroom that's here on the aircraft, because you guys are a diversion, so we can't keep track of who gets on and who gets off the plane. So please remain seated, stretch your legs if you need to on the aircraft. Like I said, if you need to use the restroom, please use the bathroom on here. Nobody is to get off at this point.
I'm happy.
The weather to get better up there. Current situation is we need 2 miles visibility to land up there. It's still showing 1 mile, so we're still waiting for it to get better. It's currently still showing 1 mile, so what we're going to do is wait here about another 10 minutes and see if it improves, and we'll give you another update as we keep it updated on the weather. Thank you. Really sorry about that. The weather is just not getting any better there. It's not legal for us to go. It's not safe for us to go either, so we got to go back to Newark. That's the only one that has good enough weather. We're really sorry about that. We'll get going here in the next 30 minutes or so, and we appreciate your patience. Feel free to get off the plane, but they're not touching the bags. The bags are going with us if they're underneath. So I appreciate your patience. We're really sorry about everything, and thanks for flying with us.
Okay, so as your pilot has told you, you guys are headed back to Newark. Obviously, you saw 2 gentlemen get off this plane. We would strongly advise that you do not do that. Your bags are going wherever this plane goes. Nobody's touching any bags underneath this aircraft. Again, it sounds like you guys are headed back to Newark. If you guys get off this plane, I'm not able to rebook you. This is not my flight. You guys have diverted to my station. I'm not able to fix your ticket and wherever you're going, unfortunately. So I would strongly advise you stay on this aircraft unless you have a significant reason as to get off. Your best bet is to go back to Newark, get rebooked for whatever plan you have, because that's where your bags are going realistically. Yes, you have a question.
I do have a question. We could get in a car and be wherever we belong in 4 hours, and not if you send us to New Jersey. Is there anything we can do where we're so inconvenienced to get us out?
Can't they ship us our bags?
Waiting to hear what their advice is.
4 hours to get us to
Yep, we're still just getting our paperwork together. This is normal for this time of the flight. Normally we would be having you boarding at this time while we're doing this paperwork, but you're already on board. We're really sorry we can't go back to Portland. The weather's just not good enough there, and its visibility is terrible. It's beyond our capabilities with this aircraft. We cannot go back to Portland. We have to go back to Newark. The Newark is the only one with good enough weather. We're really sorry about that, but unfortunately we can't change it. We appreciate your patience. We're really sorry about everything. Thanks again for flying with us.
So I guess long story long, because this video is now 28 minutes. In closing, Scott Kirby, I'm calling you out. You got to do better on United. I fly all sorts of airlines all the time, as evidenced by the wealth of footage on this channel. And I disproportionately run into problems on your airline more than any other airline by a significant margin. So I don't know what's going on at United. Prioritize the customer, get it right. Maybe I'll try you again in a few years, but I hope that someone there is seeing this and that things are going to change.